So the calendar has turned to June. And as I've been doing 49ers weekend reviews, we now will turn to a 49ers month in review because I think quite a bit happened in May. We started focusing on some new things based on new information. We saw the 49ers back out at practice. We saw a big contract extension awarded to the guy on your screen. That is Jauan Jennings. Congratulations to him. 2-year deal, $15.4 million total value for the 49ers. And all as we wait for Brandon Aiyuk. There's an expected wait for Brandon Aiyuk's deal because the 49ers generally do not, I wouldn't even say generally, I would say for every single A-list rookie contract player, they haven't finished an extension until about July, maybe even later in some cases. So it's all going to be exciting stuff moving forward, but this is a time to turn around and look back at the month of May and everything that we did go through. Remember that it all started with the 49ers schedule scandal. My goodness. They're playing 4 teams coming off of bye weeks in this 2024 season. The only team in the NFL that is playing 4 teams coming off of a bye. And I mean, this is something that was an issue for the 49ers already last year. If you look at the net rest differential, which calculates the amount of rest that the 49ers have versus their opponents in each given week. So if you're coming off of a bye week and your opponent is not, then you have a +7 in that category. If you're like the 49ers 4 times this year and you're not coming off a bye week, but your opponent is, then you're at -7. The 49ers have had 2 terrible net rest differentials with their past 2 schedules in 2023 and 2024. In fact, both of those 2 schedules are in the worst 7 schedules, the most disadvantageous schedules when you list them in net terms of net rest differential from the past 20 plus seasons. So the 49ers are going to have to be working uphill as far as rest goes in this 2024 season. They worked uphill last year and they still ended up with the number 1 seed and in the Super Bowl. So it's a question of, can they withstand the cumulative wear and tear that the past few seasons have put on their bodies and on their minds? Because the 49ers have now played 3 straight seasons of 20 games. They're the only team in the NFL to have played either 60 regular season or postseason games over the past 3 years. The veterans obviously have been taxed by this, but the 49ers have tried to infuse their roster with youth. They had a big crop of draft picks this season. They also added some new players, a lot of them along the defensive line through free agency. So the 49ers hope that they've struck the right mix of obviously keeping their A-list players, the durable ones especially, on the front lines. And they've also helped to add some fresh youth into the depth of this team. And maybe at some point this year, some of that youth will even start for the 49ers, will be on the front line. So that is all designed to allow the 49ers to attack now, to attack this 2023-24 schedule, which is particularly difficult when it lines up as far as lack of rest is concerned. When we did look at that schedule, then this was a matter of the 49ers obviously opening against the Jets. I'll see if I could find here it is. Here's the actual thing. We can go through the whole thing really briefly here since this was one of the highlights of the month. They open against the Jets. That's one of their 6 primetime games. They go to the Vikings. They go to the Rams, host the Patriots. You've got some home activity here in September, bridging into October, all the way through the bye week at week 9. In fact, the 49ers stay on the West Coast from September 22nd all the way to November 10th. That's nearly 2 months on the West Coast because they play at Seattle, and they play at the Rams in that window. But there are 4 games here that are home games either in late September through late October, including games against the Chiefs and the Cowboys. Now, 2 of these games against the Chiefs and the Cowboys, those are net rest differential games that are on the wrong side of the coin for the 49ers. Both Kansas City and Dallas will be coming off of bye weeks. So maybe the league felt that was a little bit mitigated by the fact the 49ers don't have to fly a whole lot throughout the course of these couple months. Also, they're playing at Seattle on a Thursday night. That game on a Thursday night means that the 49ers don't have to deal with the huge -7 disadvantage against the Chiefs, but it's more like a -4 disadvantage because they have the game on Thursday, so they have a few more days to rest over Fleet Week in San Francisco. That should be a hell of a week in a city. By the way, as for what's going on in San Francisco right now, Yankees Giants was last night, so I went to see 49ers fan Aaron Judge absolutely destroy baseballs into not into McCovey Cove, but into the outfield of Oracle Park. Aaron Judge put a cap on one of the most impressive months that we've ever seen in baseball history. It was like something that Barry Bonds used to do in a Giants uniform. And I will say that for the first time since I used to go a lot to watch Barry Bonds at this ballpark, it felt like watching Barry Bonds at the ballpark. You didn't really care about the rest of the game. You would just wait out there for Aaron Judge to hit. Everything was really boring except for when Aaron Judge came up and hit. And he was absolutely crushing the baseball. That was the second home run that I just showed you. This, by the way, I believe is the best view in all of American sports. View level, right field, Oracle Park in San Francisco. You can see the skyline and you can see the bay. For the first home run, I got a different angle, also from the view level. This one hit the left field bleachers. And boy, I mean, there are a lot of Yankees fans there because the Giants aren't that exciting. So, and the Yankees are the best team of baseball. I think the Yankees are like the Giants, like the 49ers, in that they lead in both offense and defense. They have the best pitching and they have the best hitting. That's what the 49ers were like in 2022, but they're unable to win the Super Bowl. I guess the Yankees, as of late, have had a little trouble winning World Series. But that was Aaron Judge's first home run, and you could just tell, I mean, this is spectacular. He's from here, from Linden. He's from the 209 area code. He went to Fresno State, grew up a massive 49ers fan. Jim Harbaugh actually recruited him coming out of college or coming out of high school to play tight end for Stanford. Imagine Judge at 6'7" or 6'8" playing tight end. So I've announced here, by the way, Candlestick Park seats. I don't think that Aaron would have quite made it to Candlestick Park. He was in college around 2012, 2013. This is my breakfast burrito today. This is from the Beanbag Cafe in Nopa. So just here highlighting some food as we talk about the 49ers. So much wind in San Francisco over the course of May that it's just hard to do shows outside at this point. It's beautiful outside, but it's really windy. Is that the Panhandle out in Nopa? So once the season starts, I'm going to be out and about a little bit more. Right now, just bad noise. Not good for the mic. Hanging out in the Panhandle. And then my hidden jewel neighborhood of the day of the show, Coal Valley. Right by the old Kezar Stadium where the 49ers used to play. Wonder if there are any schedule scandals back then, but Coal Valley is an awesome spot. All right, let's continue with the 49ers month in review. So there was the schedule issue, and, we can go back to this right here. Post the bye, the 49ers play at Tampa Bay on November 10th. Then they come home for Seattle. And then it's the 2-game stretch that's going to be really, really challenging for this team. At Green Bay and at Buffalo, November 24th and December 1st. So both of those are potential cold weather games unless we have a real warm spell in that part of the country. And it's possible, but unlikely. There could even be snow at both of these games. So that's probably unlikely too. It's late November, early December. It's not like it's in January or February, but still 2 East Coast games that are, or Central and Eastern time zone games that are likely to be cold. They're very likely to be big games. And the 49ers are going to travel back to the West Coast in between them because it's Thanksgiving in between both of these games. Down the stretch here, they've got the Bears and the Rams coming to Levi's before they fly to Miami right before Christmas. And then the Lions are playing one of the 49ers' 6 primetime games in Santa Clara on December 30th, right before the new year. San Francisco obviously hopes that this final game against the Cardinals, TBD, it's going to be in that first weekend of the new year. They hope that it's meaningless, but we don't know which way this schedule is going to go. So that's the 49ers schedule scandal for you. It's going to be tough. NFL obviously did them no favors. NFL probably saw the 49ers handle it last year. They made the number 1 seed, made the Super Bowl, and said, hey, we got to neutralize this again. So they went out and they gave the 49ers 4 opponents coming off of those bye weeks. And that was some of the news from early in the month of May. Also early in May, we got the Ricky Pearsall test, how to fairly cover a rookie receiver, not as a cornerback, but as a reporter. You're going to go out there and you going to report the truth, or you're going to go out there and make stuff up about Ricky Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall looked good. So I think that we passed the Ricky Pearsall test. He's out there with Brock Purdy, and he's out there with the other 49ers first teamers, obviously minus Brandon Aiyuk, but Jauan Jennings was at practice for San Francisco. And it's been really interesting to see how the 49ers are starting to involve him within some of their base offensive sets. Once Brandon Aiyuk returns to this football team at some point, whenever the contract is done, obviously, or maybe we'll even see him at veteran minicamp this week, although I highly doubt that we'll see him partake in scrimmage activities. But once Brandon Aiyuk is back, we're going to get an even firmer idea of how San Francisco is going to evolve within the context of its weapons in the pass game. The 49ers have more and more weapons at the receiving position. And that is reflective of their shift as an offense from a strictly run-first attack that was rooted in that ground game to a pass-forward attack that's obviously still trying to stay balanced. But a lot of people have trouble wrapping their heads around Brandon Aiyuk, Ricky Pearsall, Deebo Samuel, Jauan Jennings, George Kittle, Jacob Cowing, Christian McCaffrey. They have trouble wrapping their heads around all those guys being on the same team. But if the 49ers are leading now with the pass because they've got an MVP finalist quarterback, and they're in very, very good position to be able to utilize all of this talent. It's also a short-term, long-term kind of plan with Ricky Pearsall, which I think a lot of people always have trouble grasping when it's first conceptualized. But when you look at how to build a football team, it's not all about 2024. You want to make yourself as good as possible in 2024, and obviously stockpiling the receiving room for an MVP finalist quarterback is a really good way to do that. So that's the short-term part of the Ricky Pearsall thinking. But you also want to make sure that you've got the receiver position locked down for years to come. Deebo Samuel's under contract for this year and the next. Brandon Aiyuk is currently only under contract for this season, for 2024. I get it. They're working on an extension, but that should still remind you that the 49ers don't have star players at the wide receiver position locked down forever. Jauan Jennings, only 2 years, even after he signed his extension. So Ricky Pearsall comes in with 5 years of team control. The 49ers have him as a first-round pick. Next 4 seasons, he's under contract at a very, very affordable rate. It would get a little bit more expensive in the 5th year if he performs over the first 4, and they want to give him that 5th-year option. But there are 5 potential years of team control here built into this contract. That's not even considering a franchise tag down the road. So, of course, San Francisco's happy that Ricky Pearsall moving just as well on the practice field as he did on tape, and we'll find out more once training camp starts. But everything has been an arrow up so far at practices for the young 49ers wide receiver out of Florida. Also, a new focus on Christian McCaffrey's contract over the course of these OTAs. I'm going to actually open up Christian McCaffrey's contract because there hasn't been a whole lot of clarity on this because Christian hasn't been at OTAs. He was at OTAs last year. So that obviously marks a departure from what we expected and what we had grown accustomed to in 2023. That has been really the only hint that Christian McCaffrey is potentially seeking a sweetener in his deal or something better about his deal. But we can't treat that as a foolproof yes, that's what Christian McCaffrey is looking for, because he's also about to get married this offseason. So he's got a big life event. And of course, these OTAs are voluntary, but it has given us a chance to examine McCaffrey's contract and say, well, he's making $11.8 million in base salary from the 49ers this year. Carolina, who signed his deal originally a few years ago, those guys offered up a $10.7 million. Well, it was bigger than that. The signing bonus was, the 49ers have handled the 10.7. The 49ers have restructured Christian McCaffrey's contract. I'm sorry. Carolina offered a bigger signing bonus. I don't know how big it was, but they handled that portion of his deal to where the 49ers have only had to pay about $12 million per year, and they're handling old base salary that they restructured in McCaffrey's contract as a proration. But in general, if you want to zoom out and look at this in the simplest of forms, McCaffrey's making $11.8 million this year, and he's making $12 million for the 49ers next season. That is not number one amongst running backs anymore. Now, the deal that includes the signing bonus that Carolina paid is still number one, but the 49ers are getting this star player at a discount. Also, nothing is guaranteed for Christian McCaffrey over 2024 and 2025. So I'm sure that he wouldn't be opposed to the idea of seeing some more guarantees in his contract, and who knows, maybe even an extra year on his deal, because the lame duck season is coming up in 2025, and Christian McCaffrey is such a good player that I don't imagine him entering the lame duck season, especially if he continues playing as well as he has been playing, continues being the difference maker that he has been. I don't see him entering that lame duck season without some sort of security beyond 2025. But we'll see what the 49ers feel they can do, what they want to do, and we'll see if they do something. Because, again, this has not been an acute contract disagreement. There was even a report saying that Christian McCaffrey is not upset about the contract currently. But he's not at OTAs, and it is always a good chance to look at his compensation and where the 49ers might stand, where he might stand regarding this, because the running back scale has always been fascinating. And it's quite frankly not fair for running backs, especially somebody like Christian McCaffrey who plays so much receiver. And receiver contracts are going for 2x that amount right now that Christian McCaffrey is making, anywhere between, if you can say it's $16 million per year for McCaffrey, given his old deal, or you can say it's $12 million per year. Well, either way, double up 12 to $16 million per year. And that's how much receivers are making. And Christian McCaffrey is having the same type of impact on the 49ers offense as the best receiver in the game, even in the pass game. So the 49ers and teams are helped by the franchise tag and the market, which is dragging receiver salaries down. But teams are also finding a way to circumvent that, to their favor. And they're getting, these running backs like Christian McCaffrey. He's even pioneered that movement to deliver in the pass game for them. So they're getting guys that are contributing to the pass game for significant discounts. And the 49ers are obviously enjoying that, but they also do want to do right by their own player, and they also want to maintain good culture in the building. And Christian McCaffrey has certainly been one of their leaders, one of their engines as a football team. Another one of their leaders, and another one of, just weapons that has been extremely important to the 49ers has been Brandon Aiyuk. And when we talk about the Christian McCaffrey contract and the fact that there are receivers getting paid 2x his contract right now, maybe even a little bit more than that, then the discussion naturally pivots to Brandon Aiyuk. The expected wait is that because, again, the 49ers don't get this kind of stuff done until July, maybe even August. In the case of Nick Bosa, September. They don't want to wait that long with Brandon Aiyuk. I guarantee you they don't want to wait that long. They hope that the first sense of real deadline pressure is what gets this deal across the finish line. And that's going to be the start of training camp. I think the 49ers have paid the price over the past couple years with these protracted contract negotiations, especially with Nick Bosa, that lasted into September. And he has said that it did negatively impact his play over the course of the regular season. He did hit his stride toward the end, but he wasn't quite as good at the start. Deebo Samuel, that was much more dramatic over the course of the 2022 offseason. And he said that he wasn't in the best shape for the 2022 season after they finally agreed to a deal a few days into training camp. So Jennings has been extended, but that's not typical A-list money. Brandon Aiyuk is going to be in the range of A-list money. And when we, talk about the larger totality of things, I think that a very firm parameters should be set when Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings and CeeDee Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys both signed their deals. They're both up for extensions. Neither of them has signed. We've seen a lot of receivers recently sign contracts, but none of them are quite in that A-list caliber of Brandon Aiyuk. I mean, we had Nico Collins of the Houston Texans, who's a really nice piece. We had Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Detroit Lions, another good player. But all these guys were in the 30 millions as far as fully guaranteed money, which is the smart gauge of these things. And Brandon Aiyuk certainly wants something in the 40s based on how efficient he was and just how reliable he's been. He's only missed one game since his rookie season of 2020. So the scale that we should be looking at is fully guaranteed money. And I think that somebody like Tyreek Hill, who's at the very top at $52 million, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Aiyuk, and Justin Jefferson are all going to want to approach and or surpass that number of fully guaranteed money from their respective teams. I don't know if, maybe only Jefferson straight up passes the $52 million that Tyreek Hill has in fully guaranteed money because he's a true volume receiver who's also delivered efficiency, but he hasn't been as reliable as Brandon Aiyuk. He's missed more time due to injury. But if it's only Jefferson that passes that $52 million, it still develops a firmer parameter for where Brandon Ayuk's number should end up. And I think he definitely wants that number to be higher than the fully guaranteed numbers that we've seen out of the recent cluster of receivers who have signed. We've had an OTA reset. We've gotten a chance to see the 49ers at OTA practice over the past few weeks. So we can put a few more articles up on the screen. We've seen their new rookie offensive linemen over the past few days, Dominic Pooney, Jared Kingston. We've seen Nick Bosa show up to OTA. Speaking of that, I mean, he wasn't at training camp last year. He was holding out, but fresh off his new contract. This is all voluntary, but Bosa has decided to be there. We're going to get to see Bosa plus more, maybe even Aiyuk and McCaffrey, because it's going to be mandatory this week to begin June at veteran mini camp. And also as part of OTAs, we've had a chance to talk to Brian Greasy, Chris Kasarik, and the rest of the 49ers assistant coaches and all the new rookies who are out there, including the one in the headline here, Malik Mustafa. Purdy, obviously not a rookie, but he's only 24 years old, and he is locked, loaded, and ready to go for this 2024 veteran mini camp. That's going to be this week. Then I think Brock hosts a youth football camp in Ames, Iowa, at Iowa State, where he starred as the Cyclones quarterback. June is going to start busy, and then the 49ers will leave from minicamp. It's going to be the long gap in between minicamp and training camp of over a month. So the later June, it's going to be much more quiet. Go ahead and take your vacations then. Obviously, 4th of July. And then as soon as 4th of July hits, people, as soon as it passes, people really start focusing on the NFL. People start locking in. People start talking about the 49ers and how they're going to look in 2024 when it actually matters, when the pads come on and the games start. So that has been the 49ers month in review, from the schedule scandal to the Ricky Pearsall test to a new focus on McCaffrey's contract, the Jennings extension, the Aiyuk wait, and OTAs. It's been a lot of fun. And of course, we had our San Francisco weekend with Aaron Judge and more, the 49ers fan who could have been a 49ers tight end, but instead he decided to dominate on the baseball diamond. Everybody enjoy. I'm back to some more writing. We'll talk to you a little bit later this evening.